Welcome to Ion Franchising, where you will learn the A to Z's of franchising. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Lance Graulich. This is the Ion Franchising podcast, and I have, of course, a special guest today. Very, very special. She's kind of a little guest. No, she's not really a little guest, but it's kind of a little joke about what we're talking about today. So she's got decades of experience in the franchise space. And let's see, brands like American Leak Detection that she took from 45 locations to 165. She's even been with the multi-billion-dollar Neighborly Group. And she also made some donuts and ice cream with Dunkin' and Baskin Robbins over the years. So welcome to the show, President and CEO of the Little Gym, my friend Nancy Bigley.
Hi, Lance. Thanks for having me.
Hello, Miss Nancy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am fabuloso. Thank you so much. So, Nancy, let's start off with, let's go way, way back, which, you're 25 anyway, so you can't go that far back. But what got Nancy into franchising in the first place? What'd you want to be when you grew up? And how'd you end up a president and CEO of a franchise brand?
Oh my gosh, who knows, right? It's just all organic, I think. I like to share an early story. I don't know if I'm a true entrepreneur or not, but I started my first opportunity when I was about 5 years old. And my sister and I were going around the neighborhood, and I was cutting flowers out of the neighbors' gardens. And then I'd proceed to go up to their house and try to sell those flowers to them. So that ended, I think, after 2 houses. And then I think when I was 8, I set up all my board games in my room and charged the neighbor kids a nickel to come in and play the games. And so that didn't last very long either. But I felt like I learned a lot because my cost of goods were really low. My labor was really low. Like I had no waste. So, my profit margins were really high.
I wonder why, especially in the flower business.
Exactly. So I think I always had that spirit, but falling into franchising was honestly like a complete accident. It was very organic. I knew nothing about it. I was in the clothing industry in high school and college, and just kind of fell into it after college because it was comfortable, right? But it wasn't the right fit for me. I didn't have passion around it. It just didn't feel right. And so I just took this leap of faith and started working for this company called American Leak Detection. And a friend of mine told me about it, and they were a franchise. So I started doing research on what did that mean? And
how did you even get excited about that? You just mentioned passion, and then you went right to American Leak Detection.
I know. And it was a plumbing franchise. So that's a whole nother ball game, right? Like the only girl pretty much there. And I just wanted something totally different. And I was like, I'm just going to try something totally different. And I really connected with my boss, who was the founder. And once I started, I was running company-owned operations. So I wasn't even on the franchise side yet. But as I was running company-owned operations, I was doing really good at that. And so I'm definitely one of those people that's always like, hey, do you need help here? And let me try this. And I like to try new things. And my boss was very supportive of that. So I started going, hey, what are you guys doing over there in that franchise side of the business? And tell me what's going on over there. And I just started getting really excited about it and going, hey, if we have franchisees that are doing what I'm doing over here on the company-owned side, maybe I can help. And that's it just organically started that way. And I started working with franchisees on their operations and found out hey, I really know what I'm talking about. And they appreciated it because I was doing what they were doing. And so I really just fell in love. Because operations was where I really realized that was my niche. That was where I was good at that. I'm good at processes and systems, and that's just how my brain works. And then when I started working with franchisees, that whole relationship piece is where I fell in love with it, because I'm all about relationships. I love to keep, to build them and work with them. And I just got this tremendous gratification, I guess, when I could work with a franchisee and they implemented something that I either created or an idea that I had, and it worked and it drove business to them and revenue and profit. And that to me was like, oh my gosh, I have purpose. So that's what really made me fall in love with it.
The best part in your story about creating a system that, whether it's marketing or, operations related, and you create something that works so well, you now get to unleash that into the entire system.
I like how you did that.
You like that. You like that. So
I
speaking
like
of
it.
unleashing things, tell us a little bit about Unleashed Brands. Unleashed Brands and Little Jim, that acquisition happened not that long ago, right?
Right. So that happened. I came on board in October, really to help them navigate through this change. And so Unleashed Brands had acquired the Little Gym back in, I think it was August, September-ish. And so really what's exciting about that, we now have 6 brands. So my brand was the second one that we acquired. Snapology was the first. Now we have a total of 6, Urban Air being the first one. That was the company that Michael Browning, my boss, founded. And so when he founded Urban Air and really started creating that amazing infrastructure of systems and processes and all those things that we love that make up franchising, he started really going, wow, like, I wonder if these systems and processes and tools could really work with other similar brands that have the same consumer, the same user. So moms are our consumer, the kids are our user. And so that's how Unleashed was really the brainchild for him of Unleashed Brands. And he started really looking at other brands like ours that would fit under that umbrella, that the technology and infrastructure could help support and take great brands. So he's really all about finding great brands that are already doing great things and how can they be even better with the Unleashed Brands infrastructure. And so that's really how it all came about. And that's how we are now under their umbrella, which is amazing.
I love it. Great, great story. So tell us about the Little Gym. What is, for those that are listening that don't necessarily know, they can maybe guess, but what is the Little Gym?
Yeah, so the Little Gym, we've been around for 46 years, so we're a very tenured brand. I can guarantee probably if most people mention the Little Gym, somebody in their network is going to go, oh my gosh, my kid went there and it was amazing. And every single person I talk to has a story, and it's always positive. And so, you know, we're really Robin West, who was our founder, who's still around, and he started our brand 46 years ago, and really it was his passion for kids and teaching kids about not just physical, but also the cognitive abilities and getting their brain to work. And then the socialization, allowing them to socialize with other kids and doing all of those 3 things, which is now our 3-dimensional learning system that is in place. But having that all happen in a fun and creative way so kids, you know, it's not about like being the best and being first. It's about trying your best. And if it's not first, it's okay. You're still doing great things, and just having an environment to allow for that. So we started franchising. Now we've been franchising for 30 years with the Little Gym. We have over 400 locations now in 31 countries. So it's just really evolved. And I think what's so special about it is, again, we now have kids who are now parents. So kids that came through the Little Gym when they were little, now we're bringing their kids into the Little Gym. And I think that's a testament to the strength of our brand, the strength of our program, the strength of our curriculum and our franchisees and our teams, that, you know, we're still here and we're still growing, having our best year yet this year and doing really amazing things.
That is awesome. So what is the age range at the Little Gym? How little and how big?
The little is 4 months old, and so we want to get kids in really early, and those programs involve mom, right? So mom is with the kids when they're really small, and I think it's also a great program for mom, especially first-time moms, right? Because it's scary and you don't know how to handle your baby, and so we really help mom go, it's okay, like let us help you learn how to flip them over. And they're like, oh my God, no. We're like, no, it's going to be okay. So we start at 4 months, which is awesome. And then we go all the way up to 12 years. So we have programs along the way that really support all of the different learnings that happen at those different milestones in a child's life, and make them, you know, progress to that next level of achievement in physical, cognitive, and socialization.
Gotcha. So the average or the typical square footage of a location is, I think I read somewhere it's about 3,000 square feet.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And what typically, in my notes, every franchise, of course, has a franchise disclosure document. In my notes, I know you had everybody's franchise disclosure document was just updated, you know, through April, May, et cetera, June, 320 to 500, somewhere in that neighborhood. Does it sound
Mm-hmm.
familiar? So depending on
Yep.
real estate, 3,000 square feet. So what equipment are you buying? Obviously, a lot of mats and appropriate
A lot of
lighting and
mats, beams. Yeah, we have all sorts of, just imagine all of those great gymnastics equipment and
yeah.
aerials that you jump around on, but also just, padded mats and things and all sorts of different shapes that we can put together and make some amazing little physical courses for kids. Yeah, it's a pretty big space that we have for all of that
Yeah.
fun stuff for those little kiddos to burn off their energy.
So what about staffing? A lot of people talk about staffing being an issue these days. I always believe that you can find, if you're a great owner, you can find the appropriate people. And I would imagine working with kids, it's got to be a little bit easier, right, to find staff because people like working with kids.
They do. We leverage high school gymnastics kids, college gymnastics kids, or just anyone that really has a love for children, and a love for, I think physical activity. And certainly we, have a great training program to teach them, how to move through it. But and oh my gosh, we have some members of our team that have been with our franchisees for so long. So once they get in, I think they really love it. Certainly we've had some that, again, have been a part of our program as a little kid and gone through the little gym and now work for us. And we have many of our team members that are now on the corporate side. We've hired recently some field trainers and some franchise business consultants. So it's really cool to see that path of like attending the little gym, becoming a team member with a franchisee, then coming to the corporate headquarters side. So
Awesome.
certainly, it's definitely a little more challenging now for every business. So we're constantly looking at ways like, okay, maybe there's different groups out there that we can attract and different things that are more important, to team now that we need to take into account. So we're doing all of those things that probably all businesses are doing. But
Yeah, no, that's great. And obviously, you're doing a great thing for the community. Everybody loves the kid-focused businesses. And, look, we're going through this time now where people are talking about the fact that we're in a recession now, or I think we're in a recession right now, but people don't stop spending money on their kids, which I absolutely love.
yeah, and I think sadly with the pandemic, I always look for silver linings and everything, but I think it did really highlight for parents even more how important being around other kids was, because we were all in lock. Even as adults, we were like, oh my God, I need to be around people. So that socialization piece became, I think, even more apparent during COVID, that kids need to be around other kids. They need to learn how to interact with different types of kids too, right? And that's a big important part of our program, is seeing that there's all sorts of different types of people in the world. And so I think that really helped strengthen our brand even more than it already was. And you're right, people always overspend on their kids and always put their kids first, which is great. But I think now it just really sunk in with them how critical it was for their development. And so it's been nice to see, us getting more of those kiddos in, at an early age.
Yeah, you can't just throw a mask on a kid and take him away from his or her friends and expect that everything's just going to be fine.
Exactly.
So
but they're resilient and they bounce back pretty quick. So that's also cool to see. I've seen it in just one class where you have a kid come in and he's just full of energy or really shy and clinging to mom, and by the end of that 45 minutes they're engaging with others, and to see that kind of progress that quickly is very exciting and inspiring, because it's like, okay, things happen, but we can get them back on track pretty quickly. So
I would imagine that's one of the most rewarding things for franchisees, when they see the kids, their eyes light up, they get to come to the little gym and they get to have fun. This is the place they want to be. This isn't the dentist office.
Exactly. Yes, you're right.
I love it. So when you said there's, let's say 400 locations, about 220 something are international, 178 in the United States. Where are some of the biggest opportunities in the U.S.? Because clearly there's a lot of opportunity in the U.S. What are some of your hot areas?
Yeah, we're definitely, we have a lot already in Texas. We're expanding there. We've got a lot of room in California. Backy's, I mean, really, it's fairly open because, yeah, with
Pretty
only,
open.
you know, under 200, like we've got a lot of space out there. I mean, obviously we're very careful about, you know, we want to make sure we have plenty of space for our existing franchisees. And we also have a lot of franchisees that want to expand. And so we're always wanting to grow with our existing franchisees first, right? Because they're a known entity and they're doing so well. But yeah, it's kind of wide open for us right now. Lots of opportunities. So we're really pushing on all areas of the country right now.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. For those listening to this podcast, realize that when franchisees want to expand, it's because they can actually make money. And that's always a good sign. And I know in your franchise disclosure document, you do have an item 19, which is an earnings claim that people can certainly review, and you can contact me and I'll get it for you. But in the meantime, let's continue. Let's talk about your process and who you're looking for in a franchisee. So in order to start the process with you, what are you looking for in a franchisee and what are you not looking for? I'm sure you can probably tell me a funny story that maybe somebody came into your system, potentially trying to get into your system, and you kicked them out because they just weren't right. I mean, that's going to happen sometimes, right? So who's right?
It does happen. Yeah, so I think the ones that are right, I mean, first, I always say, first and foremost, like you have to have a passion for the business because every business has its ups and downs, right? I don't care how wonderful and great it is. When you're dealing with customers, when you're dealing with employees, there's just ups and downs to anything.
A pandemic would be the down.
A pandemic would be a challenge, right? So you know, it's the passion for the business you're in, I feel, and I had this with my business when I started it. It carries you through those tough times. So we really are looking for people that have a passion for kids, right? You have to like working with kids. You have to have a passion working for kids. It has to be a life purpose for you. So that's first and foremost for us. And then aside from that, I mean, what I've always told candidates is, look, if you're going to be a franchisee, you have to love systems, you have to love process, and you have to be an open collaborator. Because if you come into a brand and and this is an example of what you were saying, where somebody will come in, and I've had this happen, and they're immediately like, well, how can I create my own programs? And how much leeway do I have to sort of change up and create my own programs? And it's like, that's not why you get into a franchise. If you're getting into a franchise to create your own programs and create your own marketing and create your own anything, right? Like you're not gonna be comfortable in it, because the reason you get into it is so that you don't have to do all of that. Now, taking the infrastructure and the programs that a franchisor creates to a whole nother level, fantastic. Like that's what it's all about, because that makes everybody better. But if you are immediately already asking, how do I go around the systems? That's not going to be a good fit. So we're really looking for franchisees that, as we're moving through the discovery process, like they appreciate the process. They appreciate that they don't have to create marketing collateral. They appreciate that they don't have to create the technology. So we're really looking for that, that sort of confirmation that systems and processes are just part of their DNA, and it's something that they appreciate, because we know, like, great. But then obviously just, having the right business acumen, that really team builders, staff builders. Like, we want people who know how to come in and lead teams, how to develop teams, so that not only do you find your team, but then you want to create a career path for them. You want to create leadership. You want to create mentorship, so that you don't have a lot of high turnover. And then somebody who's really comfortable and excited about engaging in their community, because ultimately, like, you just got to be, if you're a business owner, whether it's an independent entrepreneur or a franchisee, like, you have to be involved in your community. You have to be comfortable having conversations about your business and being comfortable asking for the sale and asking for people's business. Because if you're just excited about the business and you just talk about it, but you don't actually finish it at the end, then it's just a great conversation, but it's not going to help you drive revenue. So,
a business, it's either a business or a hobby. A business,
right,
is more profit.
Exactly. So, I mean, those are some of the things that we look for. And I think, we have a fairly long discovery process. It's about, a 60-day process, and there's there's a lot of steps to it. There's a lot of people that are involved. So we have our development team, but my team, myself, are very involved in having conversations with candidates. And then we have a meeting. They come to Discovery Day. It's 2 days where we sit down, we meet with them, we talk through the business,
where's your
even
Discovery
at a
Day?
greater level. We actually just moved it recently to our headquarters in Bedford, so our Unleashed Brands headquarters. And so we do it there now, which is great because they get to sort of get a bigger understanding of the Unleashed Brands umbrella and sort of how that plays into each of the different brands. And that's been very exciting for our candidates coming in because it's, you want to have as many resources and support as possible. And certainly as you think about, how to leverage scale, and we have 6 brands now. So being able to leverage that scale and negotiating, different rates on merchant services or insurance or, obviously the technology that we have and all those things like that goes to the bottom line to franchisees. So that's very exciting for them to hear about. And that's been a great additional ad that we're able to show them when we bring them to Texas.
I love it. I love it. So when it comes to, if you were going to think of your top 10, 15% of franchisees, what do they all have in common?
I think it's, again, the things that I mentioned. So they are so passionate about what they do, but they're also, they're very engaged in their business, but they're not in the weeds in their business. So they've all done an amazing job of building a solid team so that they can be gone for a week or two if they want to, and the business keeps running. And I think that's with any brand I've been at, that's the common denominator. It's like, you have to be able to step outside of, the day-to-day of what's happening. You have to feel confident building a good team and letting them have control over certain aspects of the business and not micromanaging them. And then, really being engaged with the home office, I think is always a really, really critical part of, our most successful franchisees, because look, it's all about collaboration, and the home office isn't right all the time. Franchisees aren't right all the time, but you have to be comfortable.
The home office isn't right all the time?
Not all the time. Okay. No, we're not. So it's always fun for me. Like the collaboration is the most fun, and it's how do we make really good ideas even better. And having franchisees that are like, hey, maybe this is something we should think about, or maybe this would have gone a little better had we done that, right? Like those are all, I think, really great conversations and healthy.
So let me, the last question I want to ask. So again, those top franchisees, are there a lot of couples? Is it some men, some women? And what did some of them do? I mean, you're not going to know all of them off the top of your head necessarily, but what do they do for a living? I mean, were there some that were teachers that already did something with kids? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's gone the gamut, honestly. So we have a little bit of everything. So we do have some couples, but we have some female leaders. We have some male-only leaders, and backgrounds range from, to your point, like gymnastics, PE coaches, to accountants, right? And marketing people, HR directors. So it kind of covers that gamut of business experience. Some have degrees in business experience, and others, again, just sort of have that passion for physical fitness and gymnastics. And so it's kind of an interesting mix, probably more of a mix than I've seen in probably any brand that I've been with, which is, I think, pretty cool.
Yeah, I still find it fascinating that whether it's in your past, any of the brands you mentioned, there's still a whole bunch of variety in the franchise, ownership core. People always assume, people that are not in the franchise space always assume that it's going to be a certain type of individual that's a franchisee of a certain brand. You talk about plumbing and they're like, oh, well, most of them were plumbers before. No.
No. One of my best friends owns a plumbing, Mr. Reuter Plumbing, and she's female, and she's one of their best franchisees. So there you go. Not
a past plumber, just a business person with good skills that are transferable.
Yep, exactly.
You mentioned the word collaboration an awful lot, and I love that because some people misunderstand that franchising is about the systems and procedures and the brand that's been created and the roadmap. But then you have all of these best practices from great franchisees and all kinds of collaboration, not only with existing franchisees, but the corporate office. I mean, McDonald's, I think it was the Big Mac and the Filet-O-Fish were created by franchisees.
Franchisees.
Because of collaboration. They had an idea. So to your point, it's okay to have your ideas, but you have to like the core, jump into the system, prove that you can be a good franchisee and follow the system and say, Nancy, by the way, I would love, now that I'm the best franchisee, I would love to suggest we add this.
Yes.
Isn't that how it's supposed to work?
It is. And I think on the flip side too, it's also knowing and being comfortable, just like it is with your team that you lead. It's like, but sometimes you might think you have a great idea, and it might be a great idea, but it might not be a scalable idea. And so I always try to really be able to lead from, look, we can't do every suggestion that comes down the pike. And as a franchisor, like, our job is to be very focused on, the few things that we're really driving. And I think that's always the tricky relationship with franchisees too, right? It's like, yes, that makes sense, but it's not the priority right now. And it can't be the priority right now. And we can't just stop and shift all the time. And so I think as leaders, we have to constantly be working on being honest about that. Like, yes, we want your feedback, but that doesn't always mean that we're going to agree. And it doesn't always mean that we're going to be able to do it, but it doesn't mean that we don't value it. It doesn't mean it's not a great idea. It's just maybe not the right time for it. And, those can be tricky sometimes depending on where you're at in the life cycle of your business and the things that you're moving through.
I mean, you have a brand to protect for the greater good of the, other folks that have invested in the brand for what they saw within the brand. I have some notes over here, sort of my standard little things. I know you have, you do business, you have some franchisees that are veterans.
Yes, we do. Quite a few coming through lately too. Yeah.
I love, I just said to somebody earlier, I mean, 14% of franchise owners, last stat that I saw, I think from Vet Fran, is 14% of franchise owners are veterans, which is a huge number.
Yeah. It is a huge number. And, what's so perfect about veterans, as you've been in this a long time too, they love systems and processes. And so franchising is all about systems and processes. So, and they're comfortable having difficult conversations. Like, it's a lot of traits that you really look for in a franchisee. So I'm always very excited whenever we can make that happen.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So talk a little bit about some of the things, some of the additional benefits or sort of inclusive things, the marketing, HR related, IT, and what you do for franchisees, training.
Yeah, I mean, all of those things. I think right now for us, the big lift that we have is technology. So again, the great news about having a 46-year-old brand is you have amazing branding, you've got amazing curriculum, you've got a tremendous following, and those are all great things. What you also have typically is older infrastructure. And so, at some point those things have to change, right? And the bigger you get, the harder it is to move through all of those big changes because everybody gets used to like having it their way. So
but
we're doing a lot.
But especially when you've been as successful as you guys have, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. Yeah, right. That's a perfect example because you're right. Like, it'd be easy to just sort of go, well, just leave it alone, right? But we have the responsibility to be looking farther ahead because we learned in the last 2 years, like, we don't know what's around the corner, right? We don't know what's around the corner. And so we have to constantly be building the business to be as strong as it possibly can be. So if another weird thing happens, we are best set up for success. And that means continually looking at what your consumer, in our case, what they need, what they want, how they want to engage with us. So that's why technology for us right now, it's like, how do we eliminate steps? How do we make the journey for our mom as seamless as possible? How do we meet her where she wants to be, which is on her mobile phone when she's got a kid on her hip, and trying to make everything easy for her. And so, that requires there's a lot of cool things out there now, and we have now Unleashed Brands, so we've got this great technology. So technology is a big one. We're adding some amazing marketing platforms for our franchisees to be able to leverage. And again, we're looking for ways to eliminate steps and eliminate them having to add labor and extra, people on their team, which will obviously decrease labor on their side. So that's the big focus for us right now, is just eliminating steps, and just making things more streamlined. So our business is easier to operate on the franchisee side, which was a big concern that came back from our franchisees when we acquired them, was like, please make it easier for us to run, because if it's easier to run, they'll be able to open the little gyms in their market, but it's got to be easier. And so that's our big focus right now, is the ease of use on the franchisee side.
I've been hearing that word easy an awful lot. And that is the easiest thing, is still to open a franchise, because there's a system in front of you. You don't have to figure everything out yourself. And worse than that, figure everything out and pay for everything that you have to figure out.
Right, exactly. Because it never ends. When I had my business, I planned to build the infrastructure, but what I didn't plan for was how quickly I would have to rebuild it, because technology in particular changes so quickly. So once you get one done, you're redoing one that you did 2 years earlier. And it's like, it's a never stopping process.
And then in an independent business, you take a detour that was unintended, where you waste more money, more time.
Right.
And the franchises are running past you because they have the money and the infrastructure.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
Nancy, we went through a lot of really good stuff. Anything we didn't cover today? Any other thoughts to add?
Oh boy. I think, I think just in general for your audience who is, like you said, I think it's entrepreneurs, it's people who have been in franchising. I think, look, like franchising, I'm passionate about it, you're passionate about it, but it isn't certainly for everyone. But I always tell people, like, look, just really take the time to if you're looking at it, take the time to get to know your potential franchisor and the franchisees that you'd be a part of. I think, when I talk to our candidates and I hear some of their stories about other companies that they've talked to, and sometimes how quickly they go through the process, I'd be like, take your time, make sure that your franchisor also wants to take their time with you to really get to know you, and make sure that it is going to be a right fit, because it's a long-term marriage, right? Once you get into that opportunity, and it can be very easy to get, distracted maybe by shiny objects. And so I always like to tell people, like, take your time, make sure you're going to be passionate about it, make sure you ask a lot of questions, make sure you feel really comfortable with that team that is going to be supporting you. And like, you'll know if it's right, when you get to the end and, you've really taken your time and got to know each other, and, you'll know if it's the right way, or maybe you need to keep going and looking for something else. So that's always my parting words, is take your time to get to know your franchisor.
I love it. That is amazing advice. And I love how you said, you'll know in the end. And it is absolutely true. And the other way is, you work through a broker like myself. We work for free.
Yes.
For you to be able to make sure you make the right decision. So Nancy
Absolutely.
Bigley,
Very important.
my friend Nancy Bigley, president and CEO of The Little Gym, thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thank you, Lance. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, and see you next time. Thank you very much for listening today. Please like, follow, and subscribe. This is Lance Graulich. Until next time.